Hey, what's up guys? This week we are just going to do a quick short video about flat tires. So today we are going to be fixing my bike. I've been getting quite a few flat tires on this bike ever since I went to Blue Mountain, so there might be a thorn in the tire or something like that. So let's get right into it. The things I'm going to use is a patch kit that I bought off Amazon for like $6. It comes with about 80 patches in the pack, the glue, and everything you need to basically install the patch on your tire. Another thing I'm going to be using are these tire levers. I usually don't need them since I have tubeless ready rims. You can usually just get these at Walmart. At Walmart they have a few patch kits. These actually come on any tube that you buy. At least from the tubes I bought, they always come with tire levers. If you want, just go buy a tube and then just make sure it comes with these tire levers, and you should be able to just do the same procedure that I'm going to be doing right now, but you don't have to patch it up. But you should also get a patch kit because otherwise you're going to be spending a lot of money on tubes. Let's get right into it. These are all the things you need. Okay, so after you have all your tools, you are also going to need a bucket of water. Barely any water, but you can get that later on. That is just to locate the hole in your tube. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lock my derailleur. So most derailleurs don't have this, but mine does, so I just go like that. Then I'm just going to take my through axle out. Through axles usually have some kind of grease or lubricant on them, so if you take your axle out, make sure to put it somewhere clean. That way it doesn't get a bunch of dirt and grime on it. So once you get your tire wheel off, just get your chain off. And then put your through axle somewhere clean, and then you end up with your wheel. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so the first thing we are going to do is get all the air out of our tire. Obviously my tire already has no air at all, so just start with that. Make sure your tire is deflated completely. Get your tire completely off the bead. My rim is for tubeless tires. Obviously I don't have tubeless, but my tires just pop into the rim. Right now my tires aren't popped in, I already popped them out. But all you do technically is you just kind of squish the tire from both sides, just pinch it and make sure it pops into the valley of the rim. And just make sure to do that all around the rim. It's right in the middle of it. And that way you can just pull this up. That way you have all the tire closer up because it's like farther up in the middle, so that way you can pull it up. You can see that right there, and you're just kind of gonna push diagonally that way, like that popped already. Just work it around the rim until you can get your hand under there. To use tire levers, it's literally the same process. Get it right under the tire bead, and then just pop it. Get one in, and then get another one in, and then do one and then do another one, and then you can just keep moving like that. Go like that, and you can get it off. You can actually get the tube out of the tire now, but for me, I'd rather get the pivot out first. So what I do is I just push the tire over, like all the way over to the other side, and that way the pivot comes straight up. Push the tire this way, so then that way I can just pull the tube straight up from the pivot, and you can just take it out and then you just pull it out. So you have air in your tube and a bucket of water. That means you're going to be able to see air coming out of the water in the form of bubbles. Dip the tube all around into the bucket until we start seeing bubbles. Just start dipping the tube, and I'm starting to think that my tube only deflated because of the heat temperatures, but I'm pretty certain there's a puncture. Oh, yeah, I see a puncture, guys. Alright, so you guys don't see it like this, but in the water, I don't know if you guys can tell, but there are bubbles coming out. So if you see the bubbles, you can usually put your finger on here, right where the hole is, and then if you move your finger around when there's still water, you can probably hear it, and you can grab a cry and mark it. I'm actually not going to mark it down. Alright, so I have my patches here and my glue, so I'm going to put that aside. What you're going to do is you're going to grab this thingy. It's just a piece of metal. It probably comes with the kit that you bought for patching, And what you're gonna do is you're just lightly going to scrub the tube around and just the area where the hole is. This is just kind of for the glue to stick a little bit better, create a little bit more grippy surface for the glue. Just do it this way and then this way. Okay, I see the hole right there, so we are going to put some glue on there. I usually just start, once I do all of this and finding the hole and everything, I get the air out of the tube. That way there's no bubbles within the patch. Just start here. A tiny drop will kind of cost a little bit more to come out. Spread it around about the size of your patch. Don't worry about being too fast because you still need to wait for it to dry a little bit. It might sound a little bit weird. You have to wait for it to dry until it's not shiny anymore. So right now, as you can see, okay, there's a bubble. I'm gonna pop that bubble. And then you can see how it's still shiny. It's a shiny cover. And then when it's like matte colored, well, it's not shining anymore. You can probably start peeling your patch. You want to take the aluminum side of the patch off. Put your patch on, and then once I put it on, I kind of move it around in circles and then just pinch it from the middle. And then I actually still have a bunch of air inside, so get all the air out. It makes it easier. You pinch it in the middle and then kind of drag out to the edges. And then sometimes the glue dries too much. I actually took too long to actually put that on. The outside started drying. So what you can do is open up your glue. Wherever you see that it's opened up and not glued, you can just put a bunch of glue in there. Not a bunch, just a little bit. Enough, I guess. And then keep pressure on there. And if you do this right and just don't wait too much, you can probably just put it on and you don't have to refill the edges. This just me making sure the patch is fully on. Most people actually get this paper thing off the patch, but I actually don't like to do that because it just kind of peels off the entire patch sometimes. Before I put it on my tire, I'm actually gonna wait for this to dry. Alright guys, so I actually already got some air into the tube, and sometimes, if you don't want to do this more than 3 times, once the patch dries up, make sure to put it back in the bucket and check for more punctures, because sometimes when you have 1 puncture, you have 3. So if you don't want to take off the tire, put it back on, and then take off the tire and put it back on, just make sure to go and double check and make sure you don't have any more punctures. In case your puncture was caused by a thorn, what you want to do is lightly kind of scrub the inside of the tire gently to check if there are any thorns still in the tire. Because otherwise, you'll just put the tube back on and you'll immediately puncture your tube again because there's still a thorn in there. So slowly slide your hand through. Make sure you don't feel any thorns. My tire doesn't have anything. If your tire isn't set up like this yet, I would recommend you set it up. But the logo of the tire, the letters, I always line up with that pivot hole. So that way, if you get a puncture somewhere in the tube, you know how far away from the pivot it is. So if you get a puncture here and you see the thorn here outside and then you take the tube off, you know about where the hole's gonna be. Push your tire this way, and that way you can push your tube right through there, just like that, and then just pull it over, and then just put your tube on like that. So once you have the pivot inside, I usually just put this lock nut back on there. That way, in the process of getting the tire on, the pivot doesn't come back inside and then I have to fetch it again. Just get about half of the tire on, and then I just like to flip it over. And that way I can kind of make sure that this side's on, and then you can just move up. Then make sure your tube is on the rim. And then as you can tell on this side, it's not in the middle, and that's probably why I can't get it on. So getting the tire right in the middle of the rim makes it 1,000 times easier. Make sure you're not pinching your tube, and ta-da, you have your tire on. But if you guys can't do this with your rims, since you might want to use tire levers, I am gonna do it with tire levers for you guys. So I'm just gonna pop it out real quick. same process. So get it near the pivot. So I usually just flip it over. Get it on the pivot side. Get the first half of the tire on. And then that way you can keep pressure on that side and it doesn't come off. So make sure your tube's inside so you don't pinch anything. And then what you can start to do is start going, this time you just put it like this, and then you start pulling like this. Obviously make sure it's not coming out the other side. Make sure to get as much of the tire on as you can without pinching the tube. And then just get the tire lever under, push up, tire lever under, push up, and then obviously I'm kind of pulling on the tire right now, so I'm just gonna get the tire in the middle. That way it's a little bit easier. And then usually at the end you just pop it with this one, but you get it. So you get it right under the tire and then it hooks on like that, and then you just flip it over. So that's it. Now I'm gonna get some air in the tire, make sure it's holding. All right guys, so I actually put air into the tire and everything's good except one thing. The only thing that we need is to make sure that the bead is actually fully on. This is on all tires. It's happened to me every few times that I put air into a tire. So what you want to look for is right here. There's a line out like right next to the rim that follows all around the tire, and then sometimes it just dips into the rim. And when it dips into the rim, that means the tire isn't seated correctly. So what you have to do is put like 40 psi into your tire and then hope that it pops. And if it doesn't, you usually just have to pull on it really hard. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. I hope you guys heard that. So that actually got it on. So now it's all around the edge of the tire. But if you can't get it on, get all the air out and then just splash a little bit of water. As you can see here, I did put a little bit of water and I splashed it a little bit, and that kind of helps it slide a little bit easier and pop back into place. So there you go. That's how you patch up a wheel. Now we just have to get it back into the bike. So I got the top chain, so this top chain right on the cog, so the gears, and then push the bike up into the blah blah blah. Make sure your rotor fits in good. Make sure don't force it. It usually should go in easily, but you have to make sure that your rotor goes in between the pads. That way you don't bend anything or mess up anything up. All right, so then you just keep pushing on your wheel, and then just slide your axle through. Then I can just let go, and then with these derailleurs, I can literally just push it forward, and then it just pops back on. And then I just have to screw the axle in. All you want to tighten is just a tiny bit. So you get it tight, and then once it's tight, like snug, you just move it a tiny bit more. On our next video, it's either going to be a video about me doing some tricks on my Trails bike, or we might be putting some tokens into the shock and the fork. So I actually just bought some more tokens. Please subscribe, like this video, and share. It would really help. Comment what you would like to see in the next video or next video. Stoked to have you shared with me today. Stay wild.